Welcome to Cambridge Marketing College's professional and personal development series. My name is Neil Wilkins, and today in the webinar, we are going to be talking about what is well-being. Now, this is a word that we see often bandied around in various different shapes, forms, and guises, and often it is misinterpreted. So we're going to go and explore what well-being is. Now, this is a subject that is relevant to everybody. It's relevant to you, it's relevant to me, it's relevant to our colleagues, it's relevant to our customers. So it is at the heart of communication, and it's at the heart of being a citizen on this planet. So there is nothing not to like about the concept of well-being, but we need to really understand what this is to be able to optimize it for ourselves, but also for those around us and those we serve, so our stakeholders. So well-being, according to the Oxford Dictionary, here's an early quote in this conversation, is the state of being comfortable, healthy, or happy. The World Health Organization defines it as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So this is an interesting one. It's a complete sense of and state of physical, mental, and social well-being. So that's an interesting one. So there's almost no stone left unturned. So it encompasses physical, it is emotional, it is mental, it's social, and it's also, if you think more broadly about this, it's also spiritual health. So how we feel and how we think about ourselves and those around us, the world that we're living in, the world and experiences that we're crafting for ourselves. And of course, then by default, it's essential for a balanced and fulfilling life. If you can understand this and if you can really tap into this, then you go on a journey that will impact productivity, your creativity, and your overall satisfaction with every moment of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, forever, for the length of time that you're actually here on this planet. So it is quite a profound thing, and I can't overstate just how important this is in your everyday functioning as a human being. So it stretches, even though we're here to kind of talk about this from a marketing and business commercial perspective, it is really important to remember that this is from a human perspective. So it is really fundamentally important here. So the impact, let's kind of bring this back to kind of professional sense here. The impact of well-being on, let's say, marketing professionals is really, really vital. Physical well-being, for example, will reduce stress and burnout. It will enable you to maintain and really foster and improve even your energy levels and your focus. It probably comes as pretty much no surprise that 20% of what you consume in food and in drink, in water and your hydration goes directly to your brain performance. So it also will impact not only physically, 80% of that obviously then is improving your energy levels and focus, but from an emotional and from a brain perspective, the way you fuel yourself, the way you look after yourself, and the way you balance yourself will enhance your emotional intelligence and your interpersonal relationships as a result of your emotional well-being. So there's a lot going into this. This is all about really, truly looking after yourself. Self-being in all its forms, not just how you identify with the human that you are by your name, etc., but all of those things physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, etc., etc. So there's a big impact here, not only on you and what happens to you, but also on the spin-off impact on others around you. As we say, all your stakeholders, your relationships, personally and professionally, your customers, and more obviously others around you. So the impact can also be mental. So this will boost creativity if you are well, your problem-solving abilities and your resilience. There's an important one right now, as most of us are very squeezed for time and really being pushed, deeper and harder in the challenges that we have professionally. The ability to solve problems quickly and effectively, the ability to be creative and to be resilient is absolutely vital. So your mental well-being. taking things on as opportunities and challenges rather than seeing them as threats and as negatives is a really key part of well-being. And we'll go deeper into some of these things in just a moment. Social well-being is also obviously, a major impact on any commercial professional. So if you have good, strong, and resilient social well-being, this is going to strengthen your ability to drive, lead, and be part of teams. So your team working and your communication is going to benefit from your well-being. And of course, the spin-off benefit then on others as we start to impact others in the way that we behave as part of these teams, as part of this kind of communication ecosystem, it gives us a chance to influence in a really positive way the, excuse me, those people around us. So that's, again, really, really important. Spiritual well-being is also a thing that I added on to the end of that previous description there, because this really provides us with a sense of purpose and alignment with personal and professional values. So when we talk professionally about spiritual well-being, we're not talking at a level of, say, religion, for example, or faith. This is very much about having a common and kind of really sort of deep understanding of your core purpose, the reason why you're here, the values that you bring to others, and then the values, both professionally and personally, that you live by. So well-being will impact on that. It'll give you a sense of understanding actually who you are and why you're here doing what you do. It'll help you and enable you to kind of uncover maybe new things, new opportunities where you can add even more value. So it isn't a static thing. Well-being is something that moves, it morphs, it emerges, it changes shape and description and size as we go through our everyday lives and on the longer life journey that we have. So it's exciting, it's really relevant, and it has a huge impact on everything we do. So for me, you can be the most specialized technical specialist in any kind of discipline, marketing, PR, communication, sales, business development, finance, whatever. All of those things you can be a real expert in. But if you don't have a sense of well-being from all these perspectives, you will not be able to function at the level that those technical specialisms allow or permit or offer up to you. So this is a key ingredient to effective operation as a professional. So the significance of this is that, a lot of us work in high stress environments, although you could argue, well, they are potentially high stress. Marketing itself is often very fast paced, it's high pressure. And if it isn't managed properly, these situations, these environments, these systems or processes can lead to stress and burnout. But if you feel a sense of well-being, if you can sense a sense of well-being, if you are emotionally well, then you will be able to cope with significant amounts more than maybe your peers or others around you. This doesn't mean you have to take on more. It just means that what you deal with and what you manage will be done at a higher level, a more comfortable level, and a more enjoyable level. So when we talk about, oh, yes, this person is very stressed, it isn't actually the environment itself that is stressful. It is their response to that environment that is stressing. So we've got to be quite careful about the nuances of the language that we talk about here. There is a significant as well in well-being, in marketing, of enhanced creativity and productivity. I just mentioned briefly the creativity thing, but a balanced life where you feel a sense of well-being will allow for better focus and innovative thinking. And this is crucial for both creating effective marketing strategies, but also delivering against those strategies on an ongoing basis. That is really important. So it's about productivity, it's about prioritization, it's about weaving in creativity within that. And of course, if you don't feel and you don't look and you don't sound well in your definition of well, then you're going to be underperforming against those criteria. And of course, that misses opportunities, and it's not as pleasant or as exciting or as fulfilling as it might be. So it is hugely significant. The improved decision-making that I talked about briefly earlier, this is when marketers, are well rested and less stressed. they will make better, more strategic decisions. So they will be thinking about the bigger picture. You know, a marketer who is well rested, less stressed, is going to be able to turn, you know, a little moment or an opportunity and spot those little moments and opportunities into things that actually bring themselves, their teams, and their brands huge amounts of value. If you're stressed, if you're not well rested, if you're literally, you know, running on empty, as it were, if you're not feeling that sense of well-being, then you're always going to be in a defensive mode. You're going to be in a reactive mode. You are not going to be able to be or proactive because you are literally in survival. You know, the kind of whole survival mode is such an unhealthy thing, and we've all been there. You know, I'm sure if you're listening to this, and I can certainly identify with moments, you know, in my life where, you know, I just think I've pushed this just that step too far. You know, overall I'm kind of okay and I'm fine, but just in this moment right here, right now, I've gone beyond what is sensible. I've gone beyond my capacity or my resources or the time available. So it is very, very significant in terms of overall performance and improved decision making when you get it right. If you think about your clients or your customers or your colleague relationships, a sense of well-being is going to make those relationships stronger. It's going to give you more time to be able to focus on these people, but it does foster better communication, clearer communication. It gives you an opportunity to probably say less, but actually it's more impactful rather than just, you know, chasing around to find the words to describe how you're feeling or the things that you want them to do or to brief somebody. So a sense of well-being will enhance empathy. It'll give you the space and bandwidth. And there's another word that we often hear used here. It's like, oh, I haven't got the bandwidth here for this meeting, or I haven't got the bandwidth to be able to do that. And it actually is bandwidth, because what it's about is saying, you know, I've either stretched myself too broadly, and I've actually got too much stuff in my pot of things to do. So I don't have the time to truly listen, or I don't have the time to really pay attention to the other because I'm surviving again. And of course, collaboration results from clear communication and empathy. So you will find, if you can demonstrate and find a sense of well-being, you'll find more collaborative relationships with everybody you encounter. So this is not just about your team or your boss. This is actually everybody. All of your stakeholders will become more collaborative as a byproduct of the significance of well-being in your role. According to the Global Wellness Institute, and yes, that is a thing, you know, this is very, very well researched. There's a lot of science behind this. Businesses that see a 25% or businesses see a 25% increase in productivity alone when employees' well-being is prioritized. So if you choose to dedicate focus and attention. And we're not talking about reinventing your day. We're not talking about, you know, stripping a whole bunch of things out of your, you know, task list or anything like that. We're talking about blending in good habits, and we'll talk about these in a minute. Blending in good habits, getting some techniques, getting a structure, getting some patient time and reflection time where you can almost kind of fine tune the best things that you're good at, the best things that you do, and actually take a little space for you to allow you to be patient. And this is where we're talking about prioritizing well-being. Hugely significant. And if you're willing to go here, this is something that can be very, very powerful for you. And of course, to keep the body in good health, it is a duty. Otherwise, we shall not be able to keep our mind strong and clear. So part of this starts from the physicality that you have. You know, you can think yourself well. Dr. Joe Dispenza, for example, talks a huge amount and has done a lot of research in this area on the whole concept of the manifestation of wellness due to the power of thought. But also we could say, well, isn't it a good idea to kind of fuel myself with the right food and the right kind of energy sources to actually make sure that my body is actually supporting those thoughts? And of course, the answer is yes. So you can begin and you can carry on this journey of well-being from any of those starting points: emotional, spiritual, physical, and the thought processes and the language that you use to describe how you're feeling. So again, for example, if somebody says to you, how are you feeling? You say, yeah, I'm okay. what message does that give to yourself as much as to the other? Because if you say, yeah, I'm fine, well, what is fine? Is fine, I'm really fine, as in fine weather, as in, great. But then why don't you then use the word, yeah, I'm excellent today. I feel great today. And actually, then you'll hear yourself both consciously and subconsciously in that playing back of the narrative of those thoughts that are turned into the words that you're using will start to get the physicality and the emotions in sync with where you want to get to. So there's a lot of care and attention that goes into this. And that's what we talk about when we say about prioritizing well-being. So there are a number of pillars, and I'm going to go through these now. There are kind of basically 5 pillars of well-being, and we're going to go through these so that you can start to think about how you might want to blend some of these things. I mean, ideally all 5, but maybe begin with 1 or 2 and just see how that plays out for you, and maybe play around with them. This is not something you switch on and say, "Yep, I'm well," and then you carry on doing what you've always done. This is something to be blending in as a good habit, and it's a lifestyle choice really to be well. This is something that will come through loud and clear a little bit later. So the first of the 5 pillars of well-being is grounding. And this is about staying connected to the present moment through sensory awareness and through mindfulness. Now, if you are rushing between meetings, if you are, frantically completing those emails, if you're, overdoing it, then you will have no opportunity to ground yourself. So grounding is all about the sensory awareness of your surroundings. So you could, for example, now bear with me on this one. This one really, really works. You could take, if you're wearing shoes and socks, you could take those shoes and socks off, and you could go and stand on the ground, the earth. So stand in a park, stand in your garden, stand on the earth. So I'm not talking about standing on concrete. I'm not talking about wearing, rubber-soled shoes. Those are all insulators. What we need to do to ground is to stay connected. And that sensory awareness of the actual earth underneath your feet is one of the first kind of strategic actions that you can take to become grounded. And you'll notice if you stay in the present moment as you do that, notice the sensations in your body. You will have a physical connection. It's called resonance with the earth when you do this. So you have to take your shoes and socks off to do this. You cannot do this through shoes because, of course, that is that insulator that I mentioned. And then staying in that present moment, just really sensing that grounding moment is absolutely key. We call this mindfulness, just having your mind attuned to that present moment. There'll be obviously breathing exercises that we can talk about, but this is something that is really key. It's the starting point of these 5 pillars. So grounding is the first one. Second one is self-reflection. And this is something you can make time for at any point in the day or in the evening that kind of works for you. And it's a very personal thing, both the choice of the time, the amount of time you choose to spend, but also how you do this. So this is about regularly assessing your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. So we call this cognitive behavioral theory. So thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It's that sweet mix of 3 things that will enable you to understand yourself better and then to make informed changes over things that aren't necessarily serving you. So when you're self-reflecting, just think about your thoughts. What are your thoughts like? Are they positive, neutral, negative? Well, what's the kind of balance of them? What kind of things are you thinking about? Reflect whether they're serving you, whether they're historic, whether they're baggage that you're bringing with you, or they're things that can actually support you going forward. Notice how you're feeling physically, emotionally, spiritually, and just kind of go with those feelings. Don't judge. This is the key thing. Be patient when you're self-reflecting. Don't judge. Things are just what they are. It is as simple as that. And notice and maybe log down as well behaviors, the things that you've done through that day, or the things that you did maybe yesterday if you're reflecting on a previous day. And notice those behaviors that you did. Are those behaviors patterns that are serving you? Do you always do things in a certain way? And if you do, those certain things, are they helping or are they hindering? Self-reflection allows you then to make little adjustments, little fine-tuning moments. We're not talking revolution here, we're talking evolution. to the things that you observe. But wherever you can, be patient with yourself and don't judge. Just take things as they are. Everything happens for a reason. We've all heard that phrase. So understanding the reasons behind how things happen and why things happen is the key. A third one is understanding time, efficiently managing your time to balance work and personal life, prioritizing tasks to avoid overwhelm. Now, this isn't a time management talk. This is very much more broadly about and more holistically about well-being. But we all know that if we can create a list of the most highly valuable prioritized tasks, and if we can complete those before the end of the time allotted to them, then we're going to feel good. It gives a sense of satisfaction and a sense of completion. And we all know that. This is not rocket science, but so few of us actually do this. And we often say yes to things that we could probably say either no, not now, or no, never. So using things like the prioritization technique of must, should, could. If things are must, then I must do them. I probably must do them on a now, soon, or later basis. So that I must do it. And this one's on a now. I must do it now. So that's an absolute showstopper if I don't. But it could be a must, but also I can do it later. So I can prioritize it to happen, but it's not necessarily happening right now. Things that go into the should category is, well, if I complete all the musts, then I probably should do these things, but they are still a should. They're not absolutely life or work critical. So be really honest about some of the things that you have got on your list and maybe take them away or maybe delegate them. And the things in the could pile, well, they were nice ideas, nice tasks, but you could do them. But let's face it, you're never going to get to them. Once you actually do that kind of understanding, deep understanding of time, and then efficiently managing your time, then you are efficiently investing your time in activities and tasks and meetings and people. You're not spending time. There's a big difference between spending time and investing time. If you spend time, you won't get a return. If you invest time, you can expect a return. Again, it's a little nuance of the language that you're using, and it is a mindset, but it's so key. Invest in your time, don't spend your time. And what return are you going to get? Well, you're going to get more return from those prioritized actions and tasks and commitments than you would otherwise if you just try to do everything. So that is another key pillar of well-being. The fourth pillar of well-being is kindness. Now, this is one that's becoming more and more fashionable. The more you look into this, you'll see there are a lot of commentators who are talking about the impact of kindness, both to yourself, but also to others. So practicing kindness towards yourself through self-care, literally putting on your oxygen mask before helping others. If you were to use the analogy of the plane announcements when you go on a flight, this is what we often hear, but it's so, so true. You're not going to be able to help and serve others or support others or be the right kind of person that you need to be if you haven't looked after yourself first. But then, of course, having done that, you're going to open up the opportunity through empathy and support to be of value to others. So be kind, be patient, give yourself a break. It literally is that. It's just stop beating yourself up. Just be patient. Don't judge yourself. Just say, look, I'm doing my best, and take it on board. I am doing my best in everything I do, in my work and in my play. And then that will be kindness to yourself. And you'll be amazed actually once you start practicing this, how it just spills over into every interaction that you have. And of course, by the law of attraction, once you start doing it, this reciprocity, this mirror effect comes back to you. So people will start to be kinder to you. It's a fascinating one to watch, and maybe that can go into some of the self-reflection too. And the fifth pillar is an integrative approach. So what you're looking for here is considering well-being as a holistic thing, not holistic as in holistic therapies or things like that, but just whole. Okay, these are components and they are interdependent. And by looking at all of these things in a nice, steady balance, you are creating a balanced and fulfilling life. So looking after yourself physically, if you go to the gym, if you eat well, is great, but you need to do the other things too. If you spend your time meditating, but you don't eat the right food, or you have a really, really hectic, busy lifestyle and you don't find time for yourself, any of these elements missing from this 5 pillars of well-being approach will actually start to eat away, or they'll start to degrade the other good work that you're doing. So well-being is attained by little and little, and nevertheless, it is no little thing in itself. Little details, incremental improvements, but balancing all of these things across these various kind of, I guess you could call them ingredients for the menu, ingredients for the recipe. That is what we're looking for here. So it is very much about balance. So let's have a little look at some of these in a bit more detail then. The grounded one is a really important one. So some techniques for staying grounded. There's a lot of people now talking about meditation, so mindfulness meditation. Forging a daily practice to focus on the present moment, reducing anxiety, improving mental clarity, thinking about your breathing. So actually finding a quiet space, focusing on your breath, gently bringing your attention back when your mind wanders, knowing it will wander, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, knowing that sometimes the breathing exercises are a little bit more tricky, but just being patient and kind to yourself can enable you to get into a more grounded state. And practice does make perfect. Thich Nhat Hanh always talked about feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. So he would always be thinking about just starting to breathe. If I feel that things are getting a bit on top of me, stop, take a breath. You've been told this, from childhood. You've been told, just stop, take a breath, take a deep breath. And it's kind of almost a throwaway comment, but it is so, so true. And so many of these very, very wise practitioners have known this for years and use this to come back to that mental clarity, that moment, that presence, and that connectedness that we call grounding. So other exercises you can do is you can walk barefoot, as we talked about before, on natural surfaces, and you can even use grounding mats to connect with the earth. It is about connection. It's about connecting with the earth, the planet, which resonates. It resonates at 0.1 hertz. And so it's a very deep resonance that you can tap into just by taking the moment to stop, to pause, to breathe, and to connect. And even if you begin just by doing that, you will have taken the first few steps in a very, very successful journey going forward. You can do the deep breathing, simple breathing exercises like what we call box breathing, where you say breathe in for 6 or 7 seconds. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 really slowly. As you breathe in, you hold it for the same amount of time as you count in your mind. You count and then you exhale very, very slowly at the same rate, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not at that speed, but I'm just speeding up for effect here. And then you hold it. So you hold your lungs empty as you wait for that same amount of time. So, and then you repeat. So you're going around in this, or you can almost imagine it as a box, breathing in for a set amount of time as you count, holding it for that same time, breathing out for that same time, and then holding the empty lungs for that same time. And very, very quickly, you will find that this will calm the nervous system and reduce any stressful feelings that you had been experiencing. It is impossible to feel anxious when you're doing deep breathing exercises. They are just a way of aligning, of grounding, and for staying connected. They bring you back to that 0 point, that kind of point where you can then start to readjust and reassess as to whether or not that stressful situation actually is worth responding to in the way that you were previously doing. It gives you a chance to make better decisions in that moment. So it's a great technique to use. You'll also probably be aware that there is this concept of biophilia, which is becoming very, very popular. Things like forest bathing, for example, where people literally lie in a forest to get a lot of the endorphins and the various kind of chemicals that come from the trees in a very natural way. Spending time in nature has been scientifically proven to refresh the mind and body. And of course, that improves your mood, it reduces stress. And we all know this. It's why we do it. It's why we go for a walk around the park or go for a quick cycle ride at lunchtime, just to be able to reconnect with nature. We weren't designed to sit in offices. And of course, most of us find that most of our days are spent in quite alien situations. So that is a great one, biophilia. If you're not aware of it, do a little bit of research on that, and a lot of techniques available for that. And then all these techniques, all this breathing, the biophilia is about building a daily routine and integrating and incorporating these kind of grounding practices into daily routines, such as mindful eating or taking breaks at regular points to stretch and to breathe. So, you could be using a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, or you could be using fitness ring like Aura, or others are available to kind of give you those little reminders, those little nudges that now is time to stretch your legs a bit, says the Aura ring on a regular basis on my phone. So if you can just pop into your calendar little moments where you're going to just remind yourself to do this, it's a great way of building that sense of well-being that you can then maintain throughout the day. So it's about building great habits. Now, with self-reflection, lots of us already journal. Certainly, if you're studying with the college, you will be creating a portfolio, a diary, a journal. You'll be logging and noting the things that are happening. So this is a lifelong journey. Journaling is the writing down of thoughts, feelings, and experiences to help you process your emotions and gain insights. We all dream at night, every single night, even if we can't recall the fact that we did. And that is your brain and your subconscious, and sometimes into your deeper unconscious, trying to process what's actually gone on so that you can subconsciously learn from everything that's happened with your thoughts, your feelings, and experiences in that day. Journaling is a way of more consciously going through and unpicking those things. It's hugely powerful. So you can ask yourself some prompts. What am I grateful for today? What challenges did I face? How did I overcome them? Let's learn from every day. You could spend hours self-reflecting. So we're not necessarily talking about huge amounts of time, but mindful moments, as I like to call them, taking brief pauses throughout the day just to check in, maybe do a little bit of breathing, maybe just centering yourself, maybe just grounding, and reflect on, how am I feeling right now? Just check in with my body. Body, how are you doing? Or how am I kind of thinking about sort of everything that's going on? Check in with my mind. Let's just kind of see what's going on. And then how are my emotions feeling right now? Am I kind of over happy? Am I over wired? Or am I just nicely balanced? Checking in on those things. And as Aristotle said many centuries ago, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So it is about taking the time to listen to you. This is, again, another thing at the core of your well-being, listening to you. And you could, if you choose to, as part of the self-reflection, maybe develop and then keep up to date a personal SWOT analysis. Consistently and on an ongoing basis, assess your strengths, your weaknesses, any opportunities and threats to your personal life, your growth, and your career. Doing some regular reviews, whether that's weekly, daily, monthly. It is about, though, setting aside appropriate time for you to review your accomplishments, the challenges, how you overcame them, and really importantly, to maintain this in a very positive way. Again, if you can align this with your kind of understanding of your core purpose and the values that you have as a human being, you can then review those against your goals as well. So the kind of mentorship and feedback is also an interesting kind of thing here, because a lot of self-reflection we will do by ourselves. It's self-reflection for a reason. But actually, if you have trusted others, so maybe colleagues, peers, your mentors, your partner, whoever that might happen to be, to get a different perspective, because these different perspectives, if you seek regular feedback, will help you to grow. So there's great value in doing this from a personal perspective, but the more you can share with others, the more chance you stand of actually learning from some of that feedback, because we often can't see what might be hiding in plain sight. So the next thing I want to talk about is effective time management strategies. So I talked a little bit about the must, should, could, but there are other strategies that you can use to free up valuable time where you could be either procrastinating, doesn't help well-being, or you could be overdoing it, overcooking the amount of stuff that you've committed to. again, doesn't help with well-being. So have a look at 3 techniques: the Eisenhower matrix, which is a good one for categorizing the urgency and the importance of all the things that you need to do in a particular day. It allows you to take a little sense of control over those priorities. You can also look at the Pomodoro technique, which talks about focusing all of the tasks, all of those commitments that you've said yes to, down into bite-sized chunks that are interspersed with short breaks. And of course, in those short breaks, what are you going to do? You're going to breathe, you're going to ground, you're going to take that little moment in nature. So that's the way to maintain it. You'll be amazed just how much stuff you can consume in terms of activity within a day by doing something like Pomodoro technique. And those focused intervals, generally they're between about 15 to 25 minutes. Some people who process and do things very quickly can take them down to kind of even sub 10 minutes. For people who take a little bit longer, and again, based on the work that you do or your preferences, take it up to 30 minutes. Find a way, play with the technique, find a pattern that works for you. But really importantly, third technique is time blocking, allocating specific blocks of time for different types of tasks or activities. Reduce the idea of multitasking and increase your focus on the things that you've committed to. The idea that, oh yeah, I can multitask. You cannot multitask. It is not physically possible for a human to multitask. You can only focus on one thing. Now, you might micro-focus, which makes you feel like you're doing multiple things, but in any one moment of time, that little sudden burst of moment of time, you could only ever focus on one thing. It's just the definition of time and focus and attention. So don't kid yourself that you're multitasking. Make sure you block time and you decide the length of the blocks of time so it works for you. As I said, some people are doing longer ones, some people are doing shorter ones. It's very personal. You also, as part of the time management strategies for enhancing your well-being, you need to really sort of be thinking about maybe from time to time a digital detox. So when you can take out technology out of the equation, you will find, again, all the science backs this up, you will find that you are supercharging the effects of grounding, you're supercharging the effects of biophilia. So if you can go for that walk or that cycle ride or that little moment in meditation without your phone by your side or in your hand, please try it, because you will find and measure the difference. See how it feels differently to leave the phone behind. It's a tricky one for most of us because we're so inherently attached to our devices. But if you can get away, it will reduce the distraction and it will improve your focus as you do either tasks or this kind of well-being reset. Other things as well, if these are possible, things like delegation, obviously identifying tasks for things that actually you don't need to really be doing. And again, striking up the work-life balance, so ensuring that time is allocated. And if you have to be, because it's the kind of work that you do, or it's your personal preference, if you have to be planfully spontaneous, my wife and I often talk about this because we're very planful people. So we actually plan in time. I kid you not, we plan in time to be spontaneous. How crazy does that sound? But actually we need to, because we have very, very full, out of choice, we have very, very full personal and professional lives. So we have to block out time. We can just make a spontaneous decision to do something, maybe out of the blue, but we actually block that time out too. And it just means it happens. Because if we leave it to a whim, oh yes, well, we'll do that at some point, that some point never actually happens. So it's about finding the reality in your world, and that can make you feel good because it's creating space, it's giving you choice, and it's giving you back that control that we all really crave. The kindness thing that I was talking about, how do you cultivate kindness? Well, no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted, said Aesop. It's a lot of these things go back, many, many centuries, millennia even. And so this is not new stuff, but it's so important. Acts of kindness, things like simple gestures, complimenting colleagues, offering help or expressing gratitude, just smiling, just saying thank you can have a profound impact on yourself and those around you. There is a very, very sort of deep evolutionary benefit for the facial muscles on your face going into a smiling shape. Even if you just smile to yourself, you will feel better. Try it right here, right now, unless you're in a public space where, that would be a little bit awkward and you might get challenged. But just smile now and see how that feels. It's very, very hard to feel miserable when you're smiling. It's a kind of a bit of a dichotomy there, but just try it and see how that feels. And self-kindness, we've talked about this, appropriate self-care activities, taking breaks, engaging in hobbies, seeking support, being vulnerable. There's an interesting one, when needed. That is self-kindness. Vulnerability is now considered a strength. You're opening up, you are asking for help. You're saying, hey, I'm not perfect. I haven't got capacity, strength, or ability to do this. Please help me. Instead of that looking like a weakness, that is now considered a strength, and people will jump on to help you, which is an amazing thing. And it will breed the empathy and that collaboration that we were talking about earlier. And this is a way, cultivating kindness is a way of fostering much deeper connections, both with yourself, but also with others. So putting a gratitude practice, regularly acknowledging and appreciating the positive aspects of your life and work, maybe at the start of every day, just think, okay, I'm going to make a list of 5 things right here, right now that I'm really, really grateful for. I'm grateful for the fact that I've got a roof over my head, or I'm grateful for the fact that I'm actually really skilled in doing a particular thing, or I'm grateful for the fact that I've got a really kind and loving family around me, or just grateful for the fact that this colleague is so helpful when I need them. Just make a list of these things. And again, hard not to feel a sense of well-being when you're doing that. Involvement in community as well can really foster and cultivate kindness. So participating in or organizing community service activities, again, building this sense of connection and purpose. And if you can ritualize these things, in other words, building these into daily or weekly ritual, that actually will help to promote kindness, help to sort of feel patience within yourself, help to have that gratitude inside you. So maybe even keep a gratitude journal, or just perform random acts of kindness. If you were to Google search now, random acts of kindness, ideas for, you'd be amazed at the things that you can do to just silently and anonymously do good for others around you. And the feeling that you get, but also, of course, the surprise and, amazement of those others who think, wow, what happened there? Where did that come from? They don't know who did it. It doesn't matter. This is not about the ego coming into play. It's about you actually being part of an ecosystem that becomes ever more kind. There's something really, really profound when people do random acts of kindness anonymously. It just triggers into some innate sense of humaniness that has a spin-off benefit. And of course, the people you are serving and doing that for are going to tell countless other people. And so then that has this knock-on benefit. It has that kind of benefit of, you drop the little pebble into the pond and you see that ripple effect. That's exactly what's going to be happening if you do those things. So it is about building positive habits. I've said either daily or weekly, or in every moment, if you can eventually get it to that stage where it doesn't become something that's an add-on, it becomes something that you just do, you just live by, and it just feels and is great. So habit stacking is one of those things. So linking new habits, some of these things that we're talking about here, to existing routines to make them easier to adopt. And really nice, neat one here is practicing gratitude after or during brushing your teeth. So brushing your teeth, you're going to be doing that at least once a day. So when you do that, maybe that's your little moment for practicing gratitude. If you're a regular tea drinker or coffee drinker, as you're making your coffee or your tea, maybe then you're thinking about a random act of kindness I can do. All of these little things make those incremental improvements into bigger improvements. Having and I call it a simple morning routine, establishing a consistent morning routine that includes things like meditation, exercise, and planning the day ahead is a great way of setting up success, future success, setting up a feeling of like, yeah, I've got this. Come on, then bring on the day. I'm really, really up for this, as opposed to, oh, here we go, another day. Well, what do you just order? You ordered another day. So it's really important to, again, be self-coaching, be self-caring, be patient, and creating that through your morning routine. I call mine a simple morning routine because simple stands for something for me. It's about stretching, it's about setting an intention, it's about meditating, it's about the P is for sort of basically setting a sort of an expectation of the protection that I'm going to need for that day. What do I need around me to support me? The L is also sort of an interesting one because that's going to sort of help me to sort of learn. What is it I'm going to be learning today? What's going to be new? And the E is for energy. How am I going to fuel myself today? And that could be through food. It could be through, I'm going to go for a bike ride today. I didn't get one in yesterday. So today I'm going to energize myself through that. So it's about planning and plotting my day. So mine is simple. So find a word for yourself that helps you with your morning routine. Or you could choose an evening routine. Some people prefer to do it in the evening, or maybe even both, but creating a calming evening routine to unwind, such as reading, journaling, practicing mindfulness, or maybe planning tomorrow. Brian Tracy talks, he's a management guru, talks a lot about setting your stall out for tomorrow so that when you wake in the morning, you've already got your plan for the day tomorrow. And again, that subconscious thing of that dreaming that goes on overnight, things will just get logged. Things will get kind of put into their right little filing cabinets in your mind as you sleep. So there's a big benefit there in doing the evening routine. And notice what's not included in here: tech, watching things on screen, talking really with others, spending a lot of time with others. These things, these positive daily habits, these routines are very personal. They're very mindful. They're very grounded. They're very self-care first. That's really important. And it's micro habits. Now, I've said about these little incremental moments. Well, we could call those micro habits. So starting with small, manageable habits that can be easily integrated into daily life. And then maybe, just maybe, if these things become a thing, not everything's going to work, not everything is going to resonate, but the things that do can be gradually expanded out. And that's where it becomes really fun. Because for me, in my simple morning routine, which I do every single morning, it's just part of how I get up to start my day. So I have these elements that I have in my day that just begin my day. And then it gives you accountability. It gives you something to stay on track with. So you can do that in your head, and you can just remember to do these things, or you can get tools like habit trackers or apps, or even an accountability partner. So if you have somebody close to you, personally or professionally, or you've got a mentor or somebody who's going to check in with you now and again, you can have that accountability partner to just pose those questions about how you're doing, not to judge, not to beat you up if you didn't hit the target, but just to kind of reflect with, and just to kind of assess and analyze whether those things are still serving you, or could you do something different. So regular reflection, as we've said, is absolutely key. And if you can adjust these habits, if you can play with the right techniques and ensure that they align with your personal and professional goals, then what you're able to do is keep this stuff well sustained. Because the worst thing to do would be to listen to something like this, begin a few little activities, and then a day or two later, you're back doing what you've done. Because now you've learned that this stuff is important. Now you've heard how it can serve you. Now you know that there's a great feeling, there's a great sense of accomplishment, there's a great physicality around all of this stuff. You want to do it. So regularly reviewing that against your professional and personal goals is key to maintain that and sustain that momentum that you will have started to build. So 3 top tips to start your journey to well-being. First one then is create a simple daily routine. So morning mindfulness, maybe begin your day with a 5-minute mindfulness meditation to set a positive tone. Maybe at midday, you schedule a short break, maybe during your workday, to stretch and deeply breathe. So that's going to reduce your stress and increase your focus, literally in one. And then possibly an evening reflection. End the day with a brief journaling session to reflect on your achievements and any ideas for improvement for tomorrow. So morning, midday, and evening, a lovely, simple daily routine that's going to start the journey. Tip 2, practicing gratitude daily. I think gratitude and being thankful for everything that you already have is an absolute key to well-being. So Develop a gratitude journal. Keep a small notebook and write down 3 things you're grateful for each and every day. This practice can shift your mindset towards positivity and enhance emotional well-being because of the language and the self-talk that you'll be doing. Express appreciation. So take a moment to thank a colleague or a loved one. Simple act like that can boost your mood and strengthen social connections. So think as you're listening or watching this, just think, okay, next person I see, I'm going to be grateful to. So if you're driving your car, for example, you're going to thank somebody who gives way to you, or the next person you talk to on the phone, you're going to actually say, do you know, I really appreciate our relationship. It's really adding value to my world, and blah, 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 blah. So you can decide what that is, but a simple single thanks moment is going to be key. And then as you start to feel the boost in your mood, that will then strengthen both your social connections, but also that self-love, which is at the core of well-being. And tip 3 for starting your journey to well-being, I would recommend is setting boundaries for your work-life balance. This is often one of the tricky ones, but it's so important. So 3 elements within setting boundaries for work-life balance: a dedicated workspace. Now, lots of us work from home, so create a specific area for work, and that will help you to mentally separate work from personal life so that you can take those little moments, those micro moments of self-reflection and grounding. Really key. Set work hours, establish a clear start and end time, and of course that time blocking within your workday. And this will prevent burnout. This will ensure you have time for personal activities, which, as we've seen, on countless examples in this talk now, we've seen that that's key to be able to then focus, to innovate, to be creative, and to be really valuable and efficient in what you do. So just because you have long hours does not make you an effective professional. So actually a lot shorter time could be a smarter way of working. And a digital detox. Setting the boundaries of your work-life balance has to have digital detox. Allocate time each day to disconnect from digital devices, and especially before bedtime. This will improve your sleep quality and reduce your stress. And of course, all of these things are playing into reducing of anxiety and improving sleep and the physicality of you as a human being, as well as reducing your negative perceptions of and responses to stressful situations. You don't have to have stress in you if you can choose not to have it. So it is about your self-talk. It is about self-care. It's about how you perceive and respond to potentially stressful situations. It's about learning and practicing those techniques and building those amazing habits. So those would be the 3 things I'd recommend that you do. Create a simple daily routine, practice gratitude daily, and set boundaries for a work-life balance. And then within that, you're going to be well set to continue on this journey with Cambridge Marketing College. If you want to see the upcoming webinars that continue to build this story of professional and personal development, head over to marketingcollege.com/events, and you'll be very, very welcome to come along to the next ones in this series, where we'll go deeper into some of these areas and, of course, balance that with some of the more technical skills, obviously, and specialist skills that come into our marketing, PR, and communications world. So I hope you found that useful. I hope that's been a good and positive journey for you. Get started, go away and play, go get grounded, go to give yourself a little bit of self-care and love and attention. And hopefully now you'll be on this journey to an enhanced level of well-being.